Yeah. So until recently, just yesterday actually, I was walking along Lake Nicaragua, and I was having so much anxiety and so much stress about being a mom and feeling like, oh my God, my child is the biggest burden in my life. My child is like the most horrible thing that could have happened to me. My child took my freedom away. And as I was walking, because I just walk and I think and I let whatever feelings and whatever come up, it's kind of like walking meditation. It really helps with me. It's not kind of like walking meditation, it is walking meditation because I meditate a lot better when I'm moving. And then something shifted in me, and it like the energy went down rather than up. It was going up like escape, 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 and the energy kind of went down. And then I realized, oh my God, it has nothing to do with my daughter. Having my daughter and being a mother is now making me face my shit that I have been running from for years, kind of unknowingly. Um, I just recently, I'm 37, and last year, I'm 37. I'll be turning 38 this upcoming year. And I left the Mormon church as soon as I could get out, like just crawling, bleeding, like get the fuck out of this place, and had horrible, horrible experiences just again and again and again, just trying to get out of that religion. And I hadn't even really thought about it for years. I've just been putting it out of my mind for, I don't know, it comes back in every once in a while. But, I didn't talk to my family for many years. And I just got away from anybody who was Mormon so that I could just get out of the mind frame, right? Because it's such it's like an all pervasive, incessant, insidious thing, Mormonism. And being in any cult is what I'm finding as I do more research and I'm diving back into this. So, anyways, yesterday I came back and I started diving into it a little bit more and realizing, oh my God, you know, actually, I have a lot of shit that I have not dealt with from being raised Mormon and in a hyper controlling, hyper abusive family. And also feeling like, oh my gosh, so much shame. I couldn't talk about them. I couldn't talk about my childhood. I couldn't talk about the religion and how that affected me and has pushed me into not having boundaries and not having a voice and into really bad sexual situations with controlling, crazy older men. But then I started watching some videos from psychologists. Logan, shoot, I'm gonna have to. I'll put it in the comments below. And he was so precise and eloquent in what he was saying about growing up with trauma and how it affects you. And such a brilliant guy. It's like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to be. I want to be a very eloquent, intelligent, well-spoken person around psychology and around especially like religions and things that I really struggle with. And now I'm starting to start to look up into women who've left the Mormon church. Like I said, I haven't been interested at all in talking with any ex-Mormons or anything. It was just like, don't want to deal with it for years. And now it's come back up that, oh my God, guess what? I have to do this. so that I can be a mom, a better mom to my daughter, so that I don't put that resentment and stress and pass down those um, the lack of boundaries, the lack of being able to speak up, the lack of being able to self-regulate my emotions, because I'm struggling with that a lot. And how she can be strong like me, but also give her skills that I need to learn right now, because I still have not learned how to self-regulate when it comes to speaking with Mormons, to speaking with even people who um, like don't respect boundaries, speaking with people who are pushy, speaking with people who are manipulative and controlling and a little bit weird sexually. I still am having all these issues. And I didn't realize that, oh my God, it was coming from all of this childhood Mormon bullshit that I had just tried to like get away from as much as possible to try to heal my life. Because I was like, I realized when I was 18 and I went out of the United States, I was like, oh my God, like this is such bullshit. Like the United States in general is so crazy and so religious and so patriarchal and so toxic about sexuality and toxic about mothers and women and racism as well. And um, just really, really, like, I just had so much brainwashing, right, when I was 18. And um, because I was still like had to live with my family and they were military. And it's like, yes, you will go to church. You live in my house. You will go to church or you will live on the street. Right. And whether they meant it or not, that's what I felt. So I never pushed against it because it was like, ooh, if I get kicked out, I'm going to live on the street. If I stand up to authority, if I say no to my four brothers and my father, who are very controlling and abusive and sexually inappropriate, and they don't even realize it, still don't even understand it. Well, I mean, my dad died a couple of years ago, so I haven't had to deal with that. Ah, I have so much more to say about that too, because I actually went back to Utah for the first time in like 15 years, like 5 years ago, and my dad still was the same sexist, offensive, abusive um, person. And just like I still have so much trauma around it that I need to talk to somebody with. I need to find like a, a therapist who can help me deal with childhood trauma and kind of unpick all these things, right? You can feel even right now how I'm getting so triggered and it's getting in the way of me being able to speak, because that's a big thing for me and for many other women in Mormonism, is that you get so traumatized around speaking your mind, speaking a boundary, speaking your opinion, especially as a woman, because there's so much gaslighting and controlling, um, um, like set, what would you call it? Like it's preset gaslighting and manipulation and controlling um, tactics that the church members, that the church actually teaches the church members to control and put other church members and maybe people who are breaking away back into their place. So there's just so much systematic. There's so much systematic breaking of your voice, gaslighting, um, making you feel small and like you can't be yourself and like you're not powerful. And just really weird things like Like I talked to my mom the other day and she's like, "Oh, why did you break away from Mormonism?" And I was like, "Oh God, getting into a trap." But I couldn't help myself and I went into it and I told her, like the two reasons. But one of the big ones was I always felt like it was this incredibly powerful being. Like I deserve respect and I deserve um, to have a chance to be a great spiritual leader because that's what I felt from the youngest age that I have in me, right? And then for them and the whole church to tell me, oh, you can't because you don't have a penis, oh, but you can have babies. You can have babies, but you can't have the power of God. You can't heal people. And I'm like, yeah, this is bullshit from like the youngest age, from like 9, 10. Then I started to like really be like, this is such fucking bullshit. Um, so anyways, coming back to like what I'm talking about, this is something I haven't dealt with. And I haven't realized I hadn't dealt with it. I just realized unconsciously that I had to get away from it and have a completely different life, have a completely different experience. And that's what I did, you know? Lived in Washington, California, Portland, Mexico, Guatemala, Costa Rica, now Nicaragua. I just had to get out of it to be like, to reassure myself that the world isn't such a dangerous, scary place like they brainwash you into inside of Utah and the Mormon church. Because it's really just to indoctrinate you into this like us versus them, and the world is so harsh, and you're isolated, and you can't have community, and you can't connect to other people. And it really becomes stuck in a self fulfilling prophecy that I've had in my life, that I have felt so isolated, even now. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I've just recently have met some really amazing people, one woman in particular, who we chatted about this stuff. And it's like, oh, thanks. This is trauma. This is trauma. And this is why I'm isolating myself, because I still feel like the world is this big, scary place. And like I can't trust myself. Um, because of all this trauma and stuff that I hadn't dealt with growing up Mormon. And I, went to counselors for like 10 years and still had some help on some levels, but either I didn't go into the Mormon thing, not while I was with them, or whatever, for whatever reason it was. But anyways, now it's like, oh my gosh, like I thought that it was like this total resentment of being a mother and being stuck and being stuck in a third world country, being stuck with my ex, her father, being stuck having to take care of a child and financially take care of her and all this other stuff. And actually, like, then realizing it's something so much deeper. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's me now jumping into this deep end of like scary, um, super traumatic childhood religious trauma, religious abuse, and then being able to separate that from then just my family trauma, because my family is a whole different ball game. Like so much trauma, so many issues, mental health issues that were undiagnosed and never treated, and a lot of abuse and control and denial and gaslighting and and um, like me having to be the caretaker of my mom when I was like what 6 years old, because my father was like crazy abusive to her. And my oldest brother as well, like super, super crazy abusive to my mom. And just pushing you into these things that no one that you were not ready developmentally to get into, like caretaking for my mom, caretaking for my brothers, and then also hyper aware of the bear, the lion, the bear, whatever it is, whatever my dad was, because man, you knew if he was gonna get mad and randomly go off the handle and pick you up by your hair and throw you across the room, which is what happened. It's all this like trauma. Okay, I'm gonna put it in the comments below, but Logan talks about this a lot. I just came across him like 2 days ago. I'm just like deep diving like totally into this. And then like listening to ex-Mormon women still talk about how hard it is for them to be like to talk to current Mormon people and have boundaries, and um still they're still like butting up against this brainwashing and like this need to be nice. And I'm having that same thing as well. So, I mean, I don't have super clarity about it totally. Like, I can feel all of my emotions and trauma and everything coming up. But I want to post this out there and be like, holy cow. Like, yeah, it's time. It's time for me to go into this deep dive and help you with it, with telling you about my experiences, and hopefully, eventually connecting to other ex-Mormon women that are also having the same issues. And I want to like break through it, right? I want to break through it and learn how to have good boundaries, better boundaries, because I am doing a lot better boundaries, still dealing with the um, these incredible fears of retribution, to speak my mind, to have an opinion, to have a boundary, um, to say no. All these sorts of things that were so exacerbated in my childhood. So it probably seems pretty random for my channel, but just come along this journey with me. Let's see where it goes, you know? Thanks so much for being here, for listening. Reach out in the comments below and let me know if you've had something similar, right? Like what are your struggles as a woman, being able to have boundaries, and if you're ex-Mormon as well, cool. Like tell me about that as well. If you're a mom and now having to deal with all these things that you didn't realize that you still haven't dealt with, even though you're like you've been working on yourself for forever, let me know if you're still having um, these sorts of issues. And something that comes to mind now is like, oh, I'm realizing I isolated myself so much my whole life just to try to stay somewhat safe, that I haven't had people to work through these with until recently. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got so much to work through. This is really exciting. So thanks for being here. Mwah. Until next time, bye bye.